This is the Conscious Mental Health Podcast for curious clients and conscious clinicians. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered health or mental health advice.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Laurel. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a mental health educator and an Enneagram 9.
Well, this is embarrassing because I don't remember my Enneagram number. My
You
name is Juniper,
have to.
LCSW, mental health educator. Don't remember my Enneagram. And I felt very nervous about it. I think I'm a 6 or a 4.
I feel like that could be true.
What's a 9?
A 9, it's just based on your core wounds. So, a 9 really has a lot of wounding around like fear of being separated, even if that didn't actually happen. So the wound doesn't have to be like a wound that actually happened to you. It's more about like a fear. Like a fear that something will happen to you.
Fears.
So like separation, spooky. It's spooky season here, so it's appropriate that we're talking about fear. Yes. But before we get into the fear, the scary, spooky fear, how are you this week?
Oh my God, I wheezed when I breathed in, so that is my answer.
Okay.
It's a wheeze. I'm a wheeze.
Okay. A wheeze.
A wheeze while I breathe.
Like I feel fairly neutral, I guess, today.
Yeah.
Not a wheeze, not a full wheeze.
Just a little, it's probably barely inaudible.
Just like a little,
just a little, like that.
Oh, look, a strawberry.
Oh, look, a strawberry. Oh, really nice.
Yeah, that could be me.
Just a little.
Yeah. But you know what did bring me some joy this week that I want to share with our listeners and everybody, just in case people don't know about it, because I want people to know about this feature. I can schedule texts now.
Yes. Tell me more.
I can. I'm so excited. I think this may have been a feature that's been available on non-Apple devices before, but I don't know because I have an iPhone. But now with the new update on the iPhone, if you have one, you can send a text, which means you can come up with a text that you think, I really need to send that at 2:30 in the morning, but it's not an appropriate time to send that text at 2:30 in the morning, and you can choose what time you want that text to go out. And it's changed my life.
Like, can anyone tell you've scheduled this?
Oh, I don't know.
Incognito?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it says that it was schedule sent, just like an email doesn't say that it's scheduled sent.
But sometimes if you unsend a photo, if you like delete it real quick, because you're like, I really did not mean to send that. That was a mistake. And then you click undo send. It says something has been unsent.
Yes, it does.
And then they're like,
terrible.
What the hell was that? Yeah. I'm like, well, what's the point of having it if someone knows you did it? Because then they're like, well, what was that? What did you just unsend me?
Yeah, that's a bad feature.
But this one does not have it.
I don't think so.
Have you tested it?
I actually don't know. I don't know. I could send you a text and then you can let me know if it comes. Yeah. All right. So you're going to check this and you're going to let me know if it tells you, if it gives me away, if it gives away my new trick.
I'll let you know because you need to know this.
I actually do because I was operating under the assumption that it didn't.
Yeah.
But I should
leave it to someone with extreme social anxiety to think of that one for you.
Yeah, I do actually need to know that because my thinking was like, oh, if I remember somebody's birthday, but it's not their birthday, but I'm definitely not going to remember to text them on their birthday because I'm remembering now, which means I'm going to forget. Then I could just go ahead and schedule it. But I don't want them to receive a scheduled happy birthday text because that's even worse to me than not getting one.
Right.
Anyway, that's it. That's all.
I love it. Oopsies, I just sent a audio message about this to someone. Okay.
That's so embarrassing.
I think we should get off of our phones.
Probably.
Except.
Oh, shoot. No, we can't get off of our phones. Why?
Meme of the week.
Meme of the week.
Meme. How many clients share memes with you in session?
Oh, quite a few.
Yeah. Memes
I think
are
it's
like
very
a language.
therapeutic. I would not send a meme out of the blue to a client outside of session, but certainly I've brought them into the conversation in session. Yeah, for sure.
It's a good way to kind of like validate, normalize, and share like a little humor every now and then about real things that lots of people experience. I actually sent one to you where I was like, truly thought I was the only one. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah,
'cause
the
this was
face washing
yeah.
one.
I said, but basically, you guys, what it was here's a bonus meme because I don't think you were going to pick that one
Mm-mm.
because you just said it. So the
Mm-mm.
bonus meme is that there's somebody washing their face in the shower, and you know how you have to close your eyes for like a millisecond.
Yeah.
Well, there's always that one little moment during the millisecond where you're like, somebody might be coming in. Maybe then you see that, like, you remember that very classic scene from Psycho where the person comes from the shower curtain. Well, I know you probably haven't seen that.
I haven't
but
seen that.
I know you know the classic scene. I thought I was the only one. Like, I wash my face so fast, it isn't even funny because I need those eyes open.
Yeah.
May not have closed eyes, vulnerably in
true.
the shower.
Yeah, that's very true. It's a scary time.
Meme of the week.
I'm ready. You go first.
Oh, okay. We got a lot of really good ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really worked hard. I was like, Juniper needs some good ones to choose from.
Yeah. And a lot of them I enjoyed on my own, like some of the therapy related ones. The Cult Leader Starter Kit was a great one. I believe this
Okay.
was a read share from Curious with JVN on
Oh!
Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, I love JVN.
And it's a person, probably a famous person. I don't know who they are.
It's an actress.
It's an actress.
Mhm.
And they're wiping a tear. And it said, and they look pretty distressed. And it says, just broke one of my made up rules that only I have to follow. And that just really hit it home.
Ugh.
Just broke one of the made up rules that only I have to follow. And oh boy, how many of those do I have? And it's very upsetting when you break one of your own
It
rules that no one else
is.
cares about.
It's so upsetting. It ruins your whole day.
Yeah.
Your whole day.
Made up rule that only you make up for yourself, and you get a little upset when you break it.
Yes. Okay. Am I going first?
Yeah.
Okay. My made up rule is based on, I believe, an article I read in 17 magazine in the late 90s, early 2000s. And this is, as I like to say, the year of our Lord 2024. So it's been a hanging on. So I cannot wash my face first. Speaking of washing our face, I can't do it first. You have to do it last, because when you wash your hair, the
Yeah.
article said all the shampoo gets on your face and on your body. It like defeats the purpose of washing your face and your body. So I have to wash my hair first and then my body, and then and then my face and then my body last.
Oh,
That's my order that I have to go in. And I'm not going to like take a whole other shower if I mess it up, but it is a rule that I deeply follow and have for over 20 years.
Two rules of something that I watched from like Dateline in the 90s that I will never not believe. Number one, when the famous episode where they went through a hotel room, did that magical light and saw all
Oh.
the magical liquids.
Magical.
To this day, I will not and I refused to touch the comforter on any hotel bed.
Oh, I feel like that's actually very okay.
I
Like,
travel
don't
with a lot
ever,
of people.
don't ever
Guess what?
touch the comforter.
There's comfort people that just don't give a shit.
No.
And they'll just plop right down. I'm thinking, no. Hey, magical liquids be everywhere. And reality is, germs aren't always bad.
That's true.
The reality is that that was a 20-year ago thing that I think I remember seeing. Don't even know if it was real at this point.
We got to wondering, do hotels always change sheets when new guests check in? We booked ourselves into 9 hotel rooms, and each time we sprayed this harmless, washable fluorescent paint onto the bedsheet. But turn on our UV lights, and presto. Let's take a look. These should be clean sheets. Let's see. Disgusting. These sheets are dirty.
Okay, so
Oh, yeah,
my
we
meme.
didn't get to your meme yet.
No, I have to share my meme.
I can't wait.
So this is from at the.ethical.dilemma.
Love them.
And it's a reshare from at Atherton KD. And it says, oh, you're experiencing a structural problem? Have you ever considered trying different personal choices instead?
We love this one.
I just loved that one. I really do. Because I would like to say that to so many people. Like so many people. And maybe I will say that to people.
Yeah.
As I am learning to become disagreeable.
Right? It's a nice disagreeable slogan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people don't want to hear it.
No, of course not.
Yeah. It's too
No.
hard because then it's like, oh no, if I can't do anything to fix it myself, and if it's a structural problem, then it like sends you into a tailspin of being out of control.
Yeah.
But for me, it doesn't feel that way. It actually makes me feel way more normal and okay in the world.
Yeah, oh, me too.
You? Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I love that mindset. Not that I don't wanna, have agency over some things in my life, but it does feel better to recognize that our personal choices are not the only things that affect our outcomes as we head into the last several weeks of election season. The end.
Yes.
That's all. That's why.
I think we leave it at that.
Yep.
That's a mic drop. That's a period.
That's my meme of the week.
Meme of the week.
Okay, so now that we're done with our very long intro and meme of the week, what are we talking about this week? Otherwise, Juniper,
Okay.
I'm ready.
So this should be published within 2 days of Halloween.
Okay.
Halloween.
Halloween.
October 31st. I was thinking that we could talk about the connection between horror films
Mhm.
and mental health.
Okay. Sounds good. I don't watch horror films though,
Yes. I thought about this
at all.
quite extensively because we've talked about it before.
Okay.
And every example that I gave Laurel of like, well, I was like, well, you've probably seen this movie. It was a no.
It's just not my genre.
No, it's not,
It's not what I seek out.
Absolutely not.
So unless somebody puts me on a couch and turns it on, I'm probably just not gonna do that.
Yeah. And that's okay because guess what? I wanted to kind of share a little bit of a personal story of how therapeutic horror films have been for me. Like any good therapist, I'm just going to use this time and space for my own personal therapy and what some would say, no, this isn't going to be a trauma dump. I'm just going to share that I was intensely afraid of the dark. Intensely afraid of Poltergeist because my sister made me watch Poltergeist when I was 6 years old.
Oh, that would have
And
ruined my life.
Yes, the original Poltergeist, I watched it. I was petrified. And my sister was being a normal bigger sister. This
Mhm.
is what bigger sister did. 8 years older than me. They were a teenager. I was like 5 or 6. It's like, duh, of course you're going to have your little sister watch Poltergeist with you while she's babysitting you. And then after you watch Poltergeist with your older sister who's babysitting you, she said that she has a doll of a specific name and that the doll would wake up at night. And if I got out of bed, the doll would do something to me.
Immediately no.
Yeah. And this doll was a older doll. It scared the living This is before Chucky came out. And so anyway, and I loved my sister because you know what she was trying to do? She was trying to keep me in bed.
I mean,
while
it
she
is
was babysitting, so she could have her own life, or she used
pretty
to sneak
clever.
out all
Yeah.
the time. And so her whole thing was so I didn't bust her because I would have told on her.
Right. Of
Duh.
course you would have.
So anyhow,
She's actually
big shock here. I was highly anxious as a child.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, big shocker. But so the Poltergeist, though, became my biggest fear. I was so scared at night. I thought stuff was going to move. I checked underneath my bed until a couple of years ago. Every time, because my family would watch The Twilight Zone. And there was
Okay.
2 episodes I'll never forget. One was somebody was under the bed and grabbed someone's foot. And another episode was about being on a plane in the rain and a monster was on the like some kind of monster thing was on the wing.
That's scary.
I rewatched all these, by the way. But yeah, so I always thought something was going to be under my bed. It was going to grab me. I'd have to look under my bed multiple times, or sometimes I was too afraid to look. I was so scared of the dark and all of these things that I slept with my parents, my mom sometimes. My parents didn't live together. So this went all the way up until adulthood. Extremely afraid of the dark, you all.
The dark is spooky. I
It
don't like the
is.
dark either.
You don't either?
No.
Okay, this makes me feel so much better because like it's something I felt ashamed of and I kept in.
Mm.
And like every now and then when I would run into my bed and jump because I didn't want to be standing next to the bed because something could get me, I would run and leap as an adult person and occasionally injure myself because the leaping got out of control as I like started getting older. But the point is, I was wondering if it was something more than just a biological fear of the dark. I think we
Yeah.
biologically, as humans, probably have some fears of the dark because we can't see things.
Yeah, it's like a
And
protective
protective.
mechanism.
So one of the things that I worked really hard on was being outside in the dark in the woods. So I stayed alone overnight twice.
Couldn't be
camping.
me. Oh no.
I on purpose walked very slowly to my bed. I started walking now I did let myself check first, but I would on purpose walk slowly and get in. And then over time, I realized that a lot of the fear was the fear of the unknown.
Sure.
And I realized that that was also a common thread within my own life. That fear of the unknown was something that I wasn't great at sitting with and or processing.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's not fun.
Right? And I started kind of
It's not a fun time.
I started processing it in my own world, and like it got easier and easier. And then I reclaimed horror films. Guess what's the
Man.
first one I watched was?
Poltergeist?
Absolutely.
Good for you.
Yes. But what I also found with horror films are there a lot of common tropes that are highlighted in horror films that actually mirror real life. Political themes that are in horror films, like
Yeah.
I think Jordan Peele.
Oh, yeah. I do know that his films often have those, they're like purposefully
Yes.
centered on political themes.
Very interesting themes but also the politicals, the personal themes. And so I started to kind of reclaim the films in that the real horror is within ourselves. And that like,
Uh-oh.
is this, how does that feel to hear?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
And some of the fears too are rooted in misogyny and rooted in these things that were planted. Like I love my sister, and she was planting these ideas in my head to get me to do something. Just like the boogeyman was a story that was told to get kids to behave or what have you. And
Right.
so I think that there's like so many layers of that. And there's this reclaiming to me that feels almost like empowering, because now I'm not going to say the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
I hope not.
Absolutely not. Because fear is real and the unknowns are real, but the horrors are in our everyday life. It's not some scary thing about a monster or a zombie that will never about a monster or a zombie.
You don't know that we'll never have zombies.
Exactly. But I wake up and open my eyes and I see these horrors every day.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
But they're not as interesting because they're real and they're not like
Yeah.
this perceived.
They're like the
metaphor.
actual horror that you actually have to deal with.
Yeah.
Not a scary zombie.
Right. So now I'm not scared of the movies anymore. I actually prefer them because the real life is more scary to me.
That makes sense. I appreciate that journey.
Yeah.
I'm still scared.
Okay, so we are talking about metaphors and tropes
Yes.
that we find in horror films or scary movies that can be a metaphor for real life mental health issues. I'll say issues. Ugh. Real
Mental health.
life mental health
Ideas.
phenomena.
Sure.
Okay. So let's start with one of the most common themes in many scary movies, the ghosts of our past.
You know, I just said I don't do the ghosts. Okay, tell me what it is.
Okay. And you guys, this is embarrassing, but I wrote just a little bit about each one of these.
Okay, I am not shocked.
So
let's hear it.
horror movie ghosts often symbolize unresolved trauma or unfinished business. And this could be related to like how people's past experiences tend to maybe haunt them until they face them head on. Now, I have a non-horror related example that I thought you might be able to play with.
Okay, I'm ready.
A Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah.
Which did
That's
scare
got
me as a
ghosts.
child.
It is a little scary, to be
Right?
fair. But I can handle that.
Yeah.
I can't handle Christmas.
Like, remember the ghost of the Christmas past, the present,
Mhm.
and the future forced Ebenezer Scrooge to take a look at some things in his life that he hadn't. And he had some trauma. He had some relationship trauma that had hurt him so deeply that his heart turned to ice.
Yeah. And he didn't want little tiny Tim to have a turkey.
Right? And he was forced to really face these through these ghosts that took him back in time and then into the future. And then what happened?
He got a heart of gold and everybody got a Christmas goose.
Right?
I like the
Yeah.
Muppet version of that movie,
Oh,
TBH.
yes.
That's the only one I'll watch.
Okay.
But
What do you think? How do you think this relates to the ghost of the past that comes into that relentlessly haunt us until we face them?
well, I
kinda
do think
deal?
it's like a haunting, right? Because
Mhm.
when like we're afraid of a haunting. We're afraid of like something in our space that we don't want there, that's causing issues or that's hurting us or going to harm us somehow, or that does in the case of like actual hauntings, because I think those are real too. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty helpful metaphor when we talk about the ideas that these things that we could have experienced, or that we have experienced, or like these things that are part of our story may stick around until we do confront them or listen to them, or sit with them, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I just recently watched, you might want to close your ears on this one.
I'm
This
gonna
was
leave
actually
them
the scariest
open.
movie I've ever seen before. One of the scariest movies because it was so real. It was called Babadook. I'm
Oh,
sure you've heard of Babadook.
yeah, I know
It's
what
a
it
classic
is.
story.
There's absolutely no way. I mean, you would like literally, I don't think I would watch that movie for any amount of money.
No, you should not. It was one of the most beautiful metaphors for grief I have ever witnessed and experienced. And I say beautiful because don't want to do any spoiler alerts.
You can just, I'm literally never going to watch it. So
Okay,
you
so-
can spoil it all you want, but maybe let's say if you haven't seen Babadook and you want to watch it, fast forward.
And we'll give you a timestamp
Yeah.
later if we're organized
Or
enough.
you know what? Honestly, just fast forward until it sounds like we're talking about something else.
In this story, the family, there's a mom and a child, and the father of the child, her partner, died on the way to the hospital. They were both on the way to hospital to give birth to this child, and he died in a car wreck. And she did not, and the child survived. So obviously, there's a lot of grief, and they don't celebrate his birthday ever because it's just such an intense day of grief and trauma. And okay, so the premise of the story is the child is scared of monsters and ghosts. And presumably, a lot of the grief and the fear of something happening to the mother comes out through a monster's going to get his mother. So enter in this concept of the Babadook, which is interesting because it says it grows if you don't face it.
Okay.
It grows in power if you don't believe in it. And the mom is in the movie very clearly not addressing grief.
Sure.
It probably feels like too much. And it's all being focused on this child's fear and people are scared of this child because they're always talking about ghosts and like she's starting to wonder is something the matter with him and like they're losing all their friends and family. And so then this concept of the Babadook grows and then all of a sudden it comes in, the mom like refuses to look at it, the child's scared of it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it starts to take over their lives, it starts to do all this damage. And then there's a point in the movie that it starts like kind of takes over the mom and she starts going like acting in bizarre behaviors that are scary. Anyhow, at the very end, this is the part that I was like, I cried on this horror film. And it, I have a lot of grief, and so maybe this felt more poignant to me. But at the end, the Babadook gets so big and it's like threatening to take over everything. The house is crumbling down, everything's crumbling around them. And she looks at it and screams and like looks at it. And I'm getting shivers as I talk about it. And other people are probably like, this is what you got from this movie. And then the Babadook gets really, really small and scared. And it looks like you have empathy for this like menacing creature, and it runs into the basement and they take care of it and feed it worms. And even though it's like really scary and it screams, they make space for this creature in their life. And the metaphor I got is why I was crying. Is I was like, grief is scary. Grief will take over. It is so intense, but it's a part of their life and they accepted it. And they have this like essential monster living in their basement, but they feed it and like it tries to intimidate them. And the mom is like, I see you.
Man.
Like, here's your worms. And like, if it could only be that easy, but I'm just
so that how, yeah, that's
the story.
That's the grief, right?
Yeah.
I see you, grief. Here's your worms. When you explain it that way, I do think it's really beautiful. And I think like that's why art is so important in the human experience. And that's why it's always going to be relevant, like even in a genre like horror, because we can use it. Just because it's a horror film doesn't mean it has to be like horror for the sake of horror. Like I think there are a lot of filmmakers that Like, that's kind of what we're talking about in this whole episode. Like, make films with a deeper meaning, not just to be scary and like make you shit your pants, but,
Yeah.
but like to tell a deeper story. And so I think that very much makes sense, especially with the concept of grief, because that
Right.
is a lot of what I have conversations about. We don't get to just leave it or erase it. It's about learning to build your life around it somehow, you know?
Yes.
And so I hear that.
And what I love that horror can do so well. Now, this was a scary movie. It's one of the scariest
Yeah.
I've seen. But what I thought they did so well is they didn't tie it up in a bow or make it like it went away and then poof, rainbows and sunshine.
Yeah, it didn't get so small, it just disappeared.
Yeah.
It still lived in the basement.
Yeah,
and they
it
had to
still
feed
was
it worms.
menacing and scary, and they had to have like 5,000 locks on the doors, and it was still scary as heck. And like tried and should it escape, like it could take over again. Like it was menacing. It was still scary. It was still like a quote unquote monster, quote unquote. And but what I loved about it is like that's real. That's real. And you don't have to have happy endings in horror films. And I think that's another reason why I've been gravitating them so much because like that's real. And so when I was thinking about the therapy themes around that is like unresolved grief and loss. And I don't even say resolved. I'm just saying grief and loss.
Yeah.
Because when is it ever resolved?
Right.
It's only resolved if your person comes back and they won't.
Right.
Also like traumatic events like accidents or disasters or violence and even collective trauma. And these are what are sometimes covered in films like with the Peele's films is like collective trauma, slavery, colonialism, persecution, exploitation, racism. Those are all ghosts of the past that will haunt you should you not speak of them. And we're really good at that here in the States.
We're so good at it. We be haunted. We're very haunted here.
Halloween every day.
Oh, is that the new motto for the United States? Like
our
instead of
Halloween
like
era.
freedom, Halloween every day here.
It's
It's spooky every day.
yeah.
I would
Trick or treat.
only tricks.
Yeah.
Just kidding. No treats for you.
Trick or treat, trick or treat, trick or treat for Halloween. Better give a treat that's good to eat if you want to keep life serene.
Yeah, those ideas that it's like those things we sweep under the rug or that like we might not even know about and that really can present themselves in ways that feel scary.
Yeah. So true. All right, what's our next trope?
So there's another trope that's like the final person. It's
Okay.
often a woman
Mhm.
and it's like the final girl. Like
Mhm.
they're the last one standing. And I don't know about you all, but almost every time I have a nightmare, that's me.
You're the last girl.
Yeah, I'm always running. I'm like, why do I have to still be doing this? Like everybody else like drops like
Couldn't you
flies.
just take me out
Yeah.
and leave me in peace?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the trope is basically the person's like outlasting everything. Well, most of the time they want to have sequels, so you never like really get rid of the scary person like Freddy and all those things, but you're still there
Mhm.
and you've learned like all this stuff. Okay, let's just say Home Alone.
I love Home Alone.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite
Let's
movies.
move. Let's say I'm going to make a connection to Home Alone because
I
Kevin
like-
has to do so much.
Can we just make a note of the fact that we've done two. So far, you've had to find a Christmas movie that I can tolerate to make this make sense.
Kevin! What did you do to my room?
But basically, I think it's like a metaphor how people feel after they've gotten through some kind of like stressor or trauma or survival instincts and how that shows up like in clients or yourself. And also how constantly being in survival mode is exhausting.
Your life is just hard all the time for a lot of different reasons, and it feels exhausting, and you have those conversations. I just feel like I'm a person that can't catch a break like everybody else around me. And that this really might be a real thing too. Like it really seems like everybody else around me is catching breaks every once in a while and the hits just keep coming for me. And it's hard to be present in that and move forward with that sometimes, understandably.
Right?
Yeah.
And like instead of running from a masked killer like Freddy, you are running from the effects of late stage capitalism. Like
know.
instead of that, it's like, how am I going to get my bills paid? What
Right.
everything going on in the world? Like I think that's kind of where I go with it. Yeah, we are trying to dodge that.
We
Right?
are, but we're not.
all trying to dodge the masked killer, but and we could like even say Jason or your inbox.
Can it be both?
Yes. Also, like there's some ideas to me of burnout that come
Sure.
from this. Do you think?
Yeah. If I've gotten to the end of a horror movie and somehow survived, I'm probably going to feel pretty burnt out.
Yeah. And think about the dang sequels. I mean, my goodness, they have to do this over and over
I
again.
know, those poor people.
Movie after movie. It's like here
God.
they're coming back again. Here goes Jason again. Thinking caregiver burnout, people that have had repeated like kind of traumas,
Mhm.
work-related stress, a chronic pressure, hypervigilance from past trauma that can wear you out.
No offense, but you look really tired. Is everything okay?
No, I feel like boo-boo.
Again, other movies like maybe a Disney movie, which I do not watch, so maybe we are.
I don't
complete
watch
opposite.
Disney
Okay, yeah, I
either.
don't do those type of movies, but think about how there's
Sorry.
like a person that persists. It's like the hero's journey. Like there's a person like in
Yeah.
all these stories that we watch, like they persist, and somehow they've gotten through all this stuff. But the reason why I love horror is because you get through it, but you are not relaxed. You're not happy. You're still scared of it, but like you just dodged it this time. And that's another reason why I like it, because it's not like you're like, and I succeeded. There's never like
There's no reward. If it's a Disney movie or a hero's journey, a classic hero's journey, there's usually resolution and some kind of a reward for all that you've been through. Right? But usually it sounds like many times the last one standing is not really being it. I mean, I guess your reward is you haven't died yet. If you're the last one standing, you're probably injured. You've been through all this horrific trauma. Now what are you going to do?
Yeah. They don't really show in those movies the amount of therapy or support that you're going to need. So let's talk about the metaphor of zombies. One of my favorite ones. Zombies have been around for a very long time.
Actually, I will say zombies don't bother me.
Okay.
I don't know why. It's because they're silly.
What about
silly?
the TV series Walking Dead?
I love The Walking Dead.
Okay, so you watch that. I think especially in Walking Dead or any of these movies, the survivors aren't just trying to avoid becoming a zombie.
Right.
Right? Like usually they're survivors for a reason. Some kind of thing has happened where it's taken out like a lot of humanity or whatever. To me, there's that psychological toll, right? Of that, but also the psychological toll of being a zombie means you've lost your humanity, but you still sort of look like yourself. And then you're like forced to walk around in like this total different form that you've never been in before, and your brain doesn't even work, and all at once is human flesh. It
Yeah.
could just be like this idea of being disconnected or disassociated or out of control.
I mean, who
Out.
hasn't felt a little bit like a zombie every once in a while? Like you're just like walking through
Who
life
doesn't say that?
totally disconnected. Yeah, of course.
That's
I'm
why
sure
they're
I've
called.
said that.
Yes, they're
why it's
called
called
The
a zombie.
Walking Dead. Like,
Yeah.
what could it be? Oh gosh, here I go again. But like the overwhelming demands of life. Have you ever felt that you're just moving around without maybe even thinking or being able to feel anything because you're just like going through the motions? Oh, I haven't gotten a lot of sleep last night. I'm a zombie. Why do I say that?
Yeah, because you're not present. Your body is
Yeah.
just moving
Just
and
kinda-
doing.
Remember the old theme?
Yeah.
Like a zombie doing that? Is this a lesson to pause for a moment and like take care of yourself? I don't know.
Yes, I guess if you're noticing that you feel like a zombie, that's an indication that you're not connected to yourself.
I've heard it in some of the conspiracy spaces where they're like, you're just walking around like a zombie, completely controlled by the man, by the cabal, whatever it is. But then again, part of me thinks like, yeah, sometimes when you can be programmed or mind controlled, this does happen.
Yeah, of course.
And I think some of those themes do play out variously in this particular trope of a zombie.
they
I
for
don't
sure
know.
do. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
actually looked it up and I was like, thinking about Frankenstein. And I was like, is this a traditional zombie movie? And I don't think it's traditional zombie.
No, because Frankenstein's monster was created.
Yeah.
It's like a created monster.
Right.
Right.
And it was reanimated. But I wrote that it represents the unintended consequences of trying to control life and death, echoing that theme of how far are we willing to go? And Pet Cemetery too. But
Oh, I hate
anyway.
that movie.
You watched it?
I tried.
I'm so impressed.
and I didn't finish it because I hated it.
Yeah. What'd you hate about it?
I'm
Most.
sure I hated that it was spooky. I feel like it was long.
Yeah, and the kid.
It's like the longest movie I've ever tried to watch.
I mean,
that's like the only thing I can think of when I think about it.
but the idea of trying to hold on. The child's cat passes away
Right.
and they go and try to bury it. There's a special burial ground where things will come back to life.
It is interesting
situations.
because I think that is something that we do, not just in a terms of like playing God by like creating a monster or whatever, but holding on to these old things that like these old patterns or like old relationships or old ways of doing like these freaking rules that I've made up for myself. Like, why am I still doing that 24 years later? I don't know. But apparently I feel it's meaningful somewhere deep inside. So I do think that's a very common place. I think we all find ourselves in that place.
Yeah.
At times it was just like holding, like white knuckling, like, no, I gotta reanimate this over and over. I can't just like leave it in the past. I just have to bring it with me,
Oh
even
my
if it's a
goodness.
dead cat.
Right. And you can really see that playing out in relationships. Yeah. And it's not even, hey guys, sometimes it's not within our available consciousness.
Oh yeah, I think very often it's not conscious at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just my orientation coming out, but like I don't think most of the time we're aware that we're like, yeah, I'm just going to keep doing this over and over again.
Right. I'm just going to reanimate my relationship with
Yeah.
my father over and over.
Yeah.
You know, just going to do that over and over again in any situation I can. This is not a real life story. It's just an example.
It's just an example.
Yes.
I'm not trying over and over again to have mastery over something I have no control of by repeating the same story with different people. Definitely not.
No. So I'll just do one more, even though I had many more planned.
Well, which is your favorite?
This one.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Grand
This is one of my
finale.
favorite themes that comes out. It's so interesting to me. The creepy doppelganger.
Ooh.
The creepy doppelganger. So like Jordan Peele's film Us
Mhm.
is about the twisted version of yourself.
Mm.
And there's so many stories about this. I thought that could be very rich with all kinds of real life applications.
Absolutely.
In some instances, maybe like imposter syndrome. In other instances, that nagging critic is that part of you that just is a little dark. I let my quiet parts out. But it's the part that wants to like ruin everything all the time, like that no happiness can exist because I can always think of a reason why it will go away or it's invalid. Could you just become a
Oh.
doppelganger and go far, far away?
Yeah, please.
That darker version of yourself. And then I have a few examples and then we can get into your thoughts about
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
So classic example, Black Swan.
Oh, I have seen that. I have seen that. I've
Yes.
seen it. Yeah.
And Nina becomes obsessed with like achieving perfection in the ballet world, which is a whole nother real life application of this. And she really wants to be the perfect swan queen. And that's like a major role, right, for ballerinas. And then she begins to see this part of herself like in the mirror. There's this alter ego that comes out that's like making her do this role brilliantly, but it's
Yeah.
also affecting her everyday life. And for me, that's like that conflict between chaos and perfection. And what will you do to get there? Would you be willing to maybe do things you never thought you would before? And I just love this story.
Yeah. It's a good
You-
one.
yeah,
I
tell me
did
about
like
it.
that one.
Or just the idea. I have a few other ones I'm just going to bring in Fight Club,
Yes, that is a doppelganger, very
Yeah.
doppelganger situation.
like destruction, disassociation.
Chaos,
Yeah, this growing contempt.
this
for
other
your
part of
life.
yourself. Yeah.
And this part is free and wild and dangerous.
Yeah.
Last but not least, the classic tale of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
See, while pop culture loves the idea of Mr. Hyde as a kind of superpowered evil split personality, like the Hulk but short, the truth is actually more unsettling. Dr. Jekyll is rich, smart, cultured, healthy, and well-respected, but all his life he has struggled with nebulous and unspecified base urges. What exactly these base urges are is literally never described. Jekyll has a part of himself that he's deeply ashamed of, and by the time he's made something of himself, he's gotten very used to burying these eccentricities under a thick blanket of shame. Victorians, am I right? Anyway, because of this, Jekyll starts dividing his perception of himself along strictly moral lines, seeing the good doctor and pillar of the community as his good side and all those unspecified base urges as his evil side. And so he begins researching ways to make this split a little more literal. In the end, he comes up with a chemical concoction capable of transforming his body to reflect this other side of himself. It's really worth noting that Jekyll and Hyde are not two different people or personalities. Jekyll is the name he gives his good, socially acceptable qualities, while Hyde is the name he gives his evil, shameful ones. When he transforms his body, he doesn't change his mind, he just drops his inhibitions.
Drink the potion.
Mm-hmm. And he turns into Mr. Hyde. Yeah.
Or even a werewolf situation, to me, could possibly be represent the
Possibly.
doppelganger.
Sure. Yeah, it's like letting out that destructive part of yourself.
Yeah. So
Right.
let's talk about the therapy connection.
Well, when you first brought up that idea, I actually thought about the doppelganger that seems evil, but like doesn't have to be. So we get afraid of these part of ourselves, but maybe we need to let that darker, like chaos part of us out sometimes. And that's like okay and doesn't have to be scary. Like I think we're very scared of it, but then maybe it's not as bad as we think. And it's just part of it's like our shadow self. The doppelganger is our shadow self. That's what I thought about.
Yeah.
Doing shadow work, making friends with your creepy doppelganger.
Right. You're right. And I think that's why it's been used a lot in this genre of film, because it is scary. There's parts of me sometimes that I've found or I've noticed or that comes out sometimes because I'm super duper impulsive, unfortunately. And like things and I'm like, oh, wow. Didn't know that was there. Woo!
There it is.
Yeah. But also, like, I think there could be this connection between, you could go really far with this, like the connection between the mask you wear and the inside. You know how that art project you can do?
Oh, yes. It's a very classic art.
Yeah, you
therapy
paint the outside of the
intervention.
mask. What do people see? You paint the inside of the mask. What do you see or who do you feel? So you could have that kind of like public and private self. You could have that internal conflict that could be kind of represented with some of these themes that come out, like that turmoil. Maybe even like, I could maybe even put in here anger.
I can feel like a doppelganger or a different person sometimes. If you're a person that hasn't ever been given permission to get in touch with your anger or to express or even feel your anger, then when it does finally like explode out, I think it can feel like a totally different person. You're like, I don't know who that was. Can't believe I said that thing.
Right?
Right?
I mean, the Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's a classic story about being angry.
It is.
My son used to say that not everything has meaning. And I'm like, no, I'm like,
But
yeah,
one of it does.
I'm going to turn it into meaning. I'm
I'll
like, this
make
is a classic.
Damn sure it has meaning.
Exactly. Okay.
It does.
Here's a test.
Okay.
Name something. I'm going to put meaning to it.
Literally anything.
Anything on the planet, I will put meaning to.
My coffee cup.
Coffee cup. It's a vessel. Is your cup full? There you
Yeah,
go.
you're really good at it.
Every sticker on your coffee cup says something about you and who you are and your values. Also, what is a cup? What story does a cup tell? It holds things. How much is that cup held? What do you hold when you're holding the cup? Okay. Look.
So good. So good. It is true. I mean, I do think it's a skill to be able to quickly do that. I think it's a built skill. I mean, you can have a talent at it, but I think after a while, when you're doing this work of like talking with so many people and hearing so many stories and getting to be present for so many stories, it's inevitable that that's just gonna be an inclination, a natural inclination that comes up for you.
I can always relate it to some kind of therapy context.
Yeah.
I want to do another classic doppelganger-ish. Now, tell
Okay.
me if I'm stretching this too far. Again, we know that I have an extreme talent for stretching things.
Okay.
What about Freud's concept of the id and the ego? Can we think about that framework as kind of like a doppelganger dynamic where the id represents your primitive desires and it's always at odds with the ego, the reality? And that creates that conflict.
I think that's very much in line, especially with the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde is like the id. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a foundational, I don't want to give Freud that much credit. That's probably just a human truth. And Freud created language around that human truth,
Yeah.
right? And so all of these are different iterations of this thing that we all experience. So of course,
You make this point a lot, and I really appreciate when you make this point. Why does it have to be primitive versus reality? Like what? Our primitive nature isn't part of our reality.
It
Like
is.
that's why I think horror does that. As in the Doppelganger, it's so scary, it's so evil, it's so different from you. But the reality is that
it is you.
dun 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 dun. And that brings me full circle into the real horrors within. But it doesn't have to be horror. And that's why I have my therapy experience. It doesn't have to be as scary as you think.
That's true.
It's just reality. And it can be scary, and it doesn't have to be some unknown. Because that's like the other part of horror is that you don't even have to do anything scary. You just have to promise something scary might happen.
That's true.
Literally. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, you
Movie.
can scare the
Yeah.
shit out of me just by letting me know this is based on a true story. Already I'm scared.
Already. It's the promise of it. And so I find that concept so interesting to work with. And also something that we talked about earlier is that horror of silence. And silence is methodically used in these films to increase fear.
Yeah, because there's nothing scarier than a silence I can't fill.
Bum, ba-da-bum. And I was actually wrote that down. I was like, Laurel's going to say, because we had talked about how all therapists do this, especially my newer therapists. Like, you know, when we're supervising our newer therapists, we're like, silence can be therapeutic. And they are like, and no.
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely no.
Mm-hmm.
If it builds suspense, why?
Because it's the unknown, to your point, right? We're like, when is it going to end? When is the silence going to end? Who's going to break it? And what's going to break it?
Oh,
like if there's
nice.
silence, then I know
Yeah.
something's going to jump out at me and I don't know when.
Yes, it's the unknown.
Right.
The fear of the unknown. I really appreciated the opportunity to talk about something that you do not like. And hopefully something that you don't love relevant and something you do love,
Yeah.
which is mental health. and
That's
therapy.
true.
So you were able to enjoy the conversation, even
Mhm,
though you
mhm.
don't really watch the movies.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think so.
So hopefully our listeners, if you're not familiar with any of these films, or you are like Laurel and don't like to watch these type of films, which I totally understand, and we respect, because you get to choose what you consume,
Yes,
what
you do.
media you consume and when. But for any of my horror film therapeutic watchers like myself, and what if I'm like party of one in this category?
No, I think there are a lot of people that love horror movies.
But that do it for their own therapy?
Oh, that I don't know.
Yeah,
That
I might be party of one. Please,
might be
please
a-
let us know.
smaller sample size.
I'd like to find my people.
Maybe that's a group. There's a group somewhere out there.
Comment.
Horror movie group therapy.
Yes, horror movie group therapy. I'm in. Who else is in? Raise your hand.
My hand's not raised.
This one will be
Alien movie group therapy. I'll come to that. Aliens versus horror movie. Which would be a better group therapy? Which group therapy would you come to?
how are you gonna get through
Spooky season.
until next time?
I am going to. Are we calling this all the way through Halloween?
I would say, because we're not gonna see each
Yeah.
other for a
Yeah.
couple weeks.
Yeah. So I am going to not watch any scary movies, but I will watch cute Halloween movies, and that helps.
What's the
'cause-
cutest one?
Well, like Hocus Pocus.
Okay,
That's
yes.
cute.
Love it.
And not scary.
Okay,
No,
truth be told, I've never seen that movie.
it's not scary.
So you're gonna get through by watching cute Halloween movies.
What about you?
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Mhm.
I'm like, that's it.
That's it. That's all I'm going to do. Nothing else.
Well, I've been watching scary movies all month, and I'm really sick of the Huluween
Mm-hmm.
options. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
on
I do.
Hulu? Yeah, I'm really sick of those options. So I'll work on my 5-minute horror film that I've been working on.
Oh, yeah.
Finally gonna have
Yes.
some time, and I'm going to work on it. You're going to watch the premiere because I'm making it myself, which means that I've used fishing line to try to like make something move, and you can still see the fishing line. It's going to be campy.
I think
I'm
you're
sure.
grossly underestimating my ability to
Okay.
tolerate things, but for you, we'll try.
TBC. I just thought of
Yes.
something really quick. Remember that resource that you shared about a website you can go to that talks about different warnings
Yes,
for
I
film?
use this website all the time, y'all, for myself, and I recommend it to clients. I probably use it like way more than the average person. It's called doesthedogdie.com. I've
Well,
shared this with you.
because you did, and now I've used it, and it is
Yeah, what did you think about it?
amazingly helpful.
So my nervous system is very sensitive to lots of things. And so I'm one of those people that I don't subject myself to any media that is going to cause me stress or distress.
Mhm.
And so doesthedogdie.com has a database of media, right? So movies, TV shows, mostly visual. I don't know if they have anything else besides visual media. And then combined with all kinds of different various like triggering things or things that could be cause distress, or even for, some people truly triggering, like if you have PTSD around a specific subject or phobia. So you can look up a movie or a show and see if any of this very extensive list of triggering things occur in the movie and at what point they occur, and maybe more details about what it is, because I think it's crowdsourced, so it might not always have detail about it, but a lot of folks have contributed details about, so you can kind of know. So for it's called doesthedogdie.com because you can look up a movie and see if a dog dies or another animal dies and how they die and when.
Yeah.
In the film. But there's all kinds of things, not just that. It's like, does a person die? Is a child hurt? Does somebody get their teeth knocked out?
Yeah.
Does somebody use drugs, and what kind and when? And it's pretty extensive.
It's extensive. Thank you so much. That is a great resource.
It's my favorite.
Bonus resource. Oh, we forgot to say After Billable Hours.
That's okay. We'll put it in later.
Welcome to After Billable Hours.
Hey, you're listening to After Billable Hours in case you weren't aware.
Exactly.
By this time.
Have you ever heard of a reverse intro? That's what we do now.
Here we are, reverse introing.
We don't say bye now. We say hi.
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 Have a great
you next
week.
time. See you in the future. See you 3 weeks ago.
See you 3 weeks. See you yesterday. Okay. Wow.
Are we already losing it? It's like noon.
I know.
I already feel my brain.
I think that means we need to probably wrap up.
Okay. Peace.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, friends.
I like when you say things about subscribing and liking and
Oh,
sharing.
yeah. Like and subscribe, and maybe share this if you like listening to us and you think a friend might like listening to us.
Yeah,
or your dog, or your friend's dog, or your neighbor.
Yeah, anyone. And
You
reach
can
out.
send it to anyone you want.
Zombies.
Yeah, sure.
Doppelgängers.
Absolutely. Send it to your doppelganger.
All open.
Mhm.
All fair game. We love everyone.
Yeah. And give us a rating and a review if you have time to.
If you want aura points. I did it. Brought in a Gen Z thing.
You're so cool.
Your aura points will skyrocket.
Ew.
Bye.
Okay.
Peace.
Okay, bye. Bye.